podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on Sunday, January 26th, 2020. This is episode 1664. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast comes to you from Twit's LastPass studios. Securing every access point in your company doesn't have to be a challenge. LastPass unifies access and authentication to make securing your employees simple and secure. Check it out at lastpass.com/twit to learn more. This episode of The Tech Guy is brought to you by Zapier. Zapier connects all your business software and handles the work for you so you can focus on what matters most. Right now through the end of the month, go to zapier.com/techguy for your free 14-day trial. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. It's Tech Guy time. I'm your Tech Guy. I'll be your Tech Guy for the day at 8888 Ask Leo. If you have a question, something going on with your technology, some issues in your life. No, I'm not Dr. Laura. I'm the Dr. Laura of tech. How about that? 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. If you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, something you'd like to talk about, anything with a chip in it. So that's computers, the internet. The internet has a chip in it. It's just at a distance, at arm's length. I guess you need something with a chip in it to see the internet. And then you go through the puffy little cloud to somebody's computer out there in a network operations center. You know how much energy a simple Google search uses? But we don't think of it. We don't really think of that, do we? I mean, we don't go, oh, wow, I got to cut back on my Googling. I gotta slow down on my Googling because it's using up according to, well, the UK's independent fact-checking charity, fullfact.org. A Google search, and this is Google's own estimate, a Google search, each and every one, and how many trillions of searches a day, right? Each and every one could power a 10-watt light bulb for 108 seconds. Just 108 seconds. So if you see an overestimate somewhere, this is Google's own. That's a 60... equivalent of a 60-watt LED bulb. It's a 10-watt. So an LED bulb for 108 seconds. Okay, you might say, okay, that's pretty trivial. It's not, though. Add that up. How many searches a second go through Google? That's the issue. The only point I'm making here is that we don't think about the cloud using energy, but it does. It uses a ton of energy. And we're using it all the time. Every time you go on the net, every website you visit, every search you make. When you go, to Google and you type in a search term, it's as if these machines are going, think about what it's got to go through. Billions and billions of bytes of data looking for that one little thing. Who won the Super Bowl in 2019, you go, and it spins up energy. And these companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, because of this, when they build their big network operation centers, which are just giant buildings, giant tilt-up buildings with thousands of computers inside. They're called rack mount because they don't stand on a desk. They sit in a rack and they're lined up. They're rack mount computers, thousands of them, row upon row of blinky lights, all connected by wires. And it's not just the computers. Those things use energy, they heat up. Oh, they heat up. That's another problem. You got to have a lot of air conditioning in there to keep imagine if you put 10,000 computers in a small, in a 10,000 square foot space, how hot it would get in there. So you've got to have giant air conditioning. So a lot of power used up by these network operation centers. And then, and not to mention all the switches and all the networking stuff. And then you got to pay for that power. So companies tend to build their network operations centers in places where power is cheap and cooling is available, which often means near hydroelectric facilities. Up in Oregon, where it's cooler, and they have cheap power. Northern Virginia, for some reason, that's a big Nova is a big area where a lot of North Carolina too. So they're actually out there trying to find places where we can run these network operation centers cheap. And if you think about it, when you do a Google search, it's not just one network operations center. They're all over the place. They're all over the world. In fact, some of these companies have so much computing power on the line that they'll just rent out the excess from time to time. That's actually how the first online services start. You may remember, if you're an old timer, it's funny. I always know when somebody's been computing for a long time if they're an old timer. If I say, "What's your CompuServe ID?" and they go, "Oh, 75106,3135." That was mine. If you remember your CompuServe. Well, CompuServe came about because H&R Block, the big tax firm, had lots of computers to do taxes, but they noticed they weren't real busy. April 16th, it got a little quiet. And they said, we should do something. We've got all these computers. We can't really shut them down. They're churning along. We should do something. So they started an online service called CompuServe. General Electric did the same thing. They called it Genie. There's no excuse for America Online. That's just that just happened. So that's what Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple all do. They lease out computing power. Google has the Google Compute Engine and the Elastic Cloud. Or is that Amazon? I think Amazon's the Elastic Cloud. They have AWS, Amazon Web Services. Turns out they make more money on AWS than they do on selling stuff to you. Did you know that? Amazon, in order to be Amazon, had to put all these computers together, build these network operations centers. They also had to build fulfillment centers, right? Big warehouses all over the country where your stuff is so that they can ship it out to you. And Jeff Bezos, you don't get to be the richest man in the world without a little bit of smarts, right? He said, we got all this excess capacity, both in fulfillment centers and in computing. What can we do with it? They created Amazon Web Services, many billions of dollars a year in revenue. It's very profitable for them. For storage, for computing. If you go to a website, most of your websites, most of the places you go are not, if you go to the Washington Post, it's not some computer in Washington, D.C. No, it's an Amazon server, Amazon Web Services server somewhere else. AWS is, even my website, if you go to techguylabs.com or our podcast site, twit.tv, those are running on Amazon Web Services. Everybody does. Why would you want to do anything else? Amazon, it's cheap. It's got all this extra stuff. And then they had all these fulfillment centers. What else did they do? Well, about half of all the stuff you buy from Amazon now isn't from Amazon. You're buying it from a third party that is using Amazon's facilities to store and ship their stuff. It's actually been an amazing success, not just for Amazon, but just for our economy, because it's a lot easier to start a business. Whether you're going to be a software startup, a website, maybe you're going to sell stuff out of your house, you don't have to have a fulfillment center. You don't have to have shipping. You just say, okay, Amazon, you handle it. I'll send you the order, you handle it. And you make your little profit. Some of it goes to Amazon. Same thing with computing. If you're a startup, I don't want to have to run a server. I don't, so you can do it on Amazon or Microsoft does this, Google does this. A lot of companies do it now with their excess server capacity. It's kind of interesting. It's really kind of powered this modern technology age. We don't think about it. It's infrastructure. It's the cloud. It's out there. But no, it's the cloud. When you do a Google search, many dozens of computers wake up and say, hello. They pull down enough power to power a 10-watt bulb for 108 seconds, and they give you the answer. And boy, did they give you the answer fast. Think about that. We just take this for granted now. But if I type in who won the Super Bowl in 2019, I don't even have to type it. I can ask Siri, who won the Super Bowl in 2019?
Beat the Rams in the Super Bowl by a score of 13-3 on February 3rd, 2019.
That was less than 1 second to get that answer. And 108 seconds of light bulb power. That's pretty remarkable, isn't it? We really take that for granted. There is a whole bunch of stuff, and it's happening invisibly behind the scenes. Pretty cool, I think. We live in interesting times, don't we? 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. That's what we talk about. We talk about technology, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hidden. If you want to talk about it with me, 888-827-5536. Our website, running on Amazon's web services, is techguylabs.com. And you know what? Because it's pretty cheap these days to have a website. We don't charge anything. There's no sign-up. Our great sponsors pay the minimal costs of having a website. Mostly it's humans. You know what's expensive nowadays? Humans. Humans compared to machines, right? So all the human labor that people like James DeRuvo, who's writing as I speak and putting stuff up on the website, and our team here in the offices who polishes it up and puts pictures in there and picks the tip of the week and the product of the week and also puts audio and video from the show. All of that free just for you, just magically happens. TechGuyLabs.com. So you don't have to write anything down if you hear me talking about something. I'll link it all up there. TechGuyLabs.com. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Your calls next. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the unbreakable Kimmy Schaffer, our phone angel. Hello, Kimmy Schaffer.
Good morning.
Are you? People don't call in and try to break you, do they?
No. Everybody's very nice.
Yes.
Even when the show ends and I tell them,
Sorry, you didn't make it. Because sometimes we get to the end of the show before we get to the end of the callers. I can't help that.
I know.
It's not my fault.
You can.
They should make the show longer.
Requires less talking.
Sorry. They didn't hire me to talk less. Actually, that's an interesting thing. If you think about it, it's a double-edged sword because we talk show hosts are hired to talk, but at the same time, if we talk too much, there's no call-ins.
Right.
So it's a fine line. I shall endeavor to talk less.
Fine line between love and hate.
Yeah, I know. That's why I have it tattooed on my knuckles. I am going to endeavor today to balance it perfectly.
All right. Well, we can start with Janet, who was that last caller yesterday, and I told her to call back. I'll get you on immediately.
Sorry, Janet. See, but that's what we can do to make it better.
I try to heal or try to
heal. She's a healer.
I'm a healer.
She's a healer, Kim Schaffer.
Try to soften the blow.
Yeah, I'm sorry that happens sometimes. Hi, Janet. Sorry to keep you waiting. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, yesterday, I guess I had you on my Bluetooth in my car, so I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. So
that's
anyway,
that's right. No, yeah, you weren't at the end of the show. I was trying to talk to you, and nothing happened. It was dead silence.
Right. Then I held on, and then Kim came in and said, "I'm sorry, the show's over."
Oh, you never got back to you. I apologize. My fault.
That's okay. Listen, I'm not techie at all, but I wanted to pick your brain because I am sick and tired of paying $200 plus for cable TV.
I'm sick and tired of it, too. Except my bill's even bigger than that.
My chiropractor told me about this box that he has, and because last year the government, I guess, released all the airwaves, so the cable companies don't have a monopoly anymore, from what I understand. But he told me about a box called a Stream Smart TV box.
Yeah.
And so I tried to hunt down the guy he got it from, and he's nowhere to be found.
Of course not, because he's in federal penitentiary.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know, but there's a lot of these. They're pirate stuff. So by the way, this is really insult to injury because it's an expensive pirate device. Free TV for a lifetime, right? None of that is true that they're telling you. What they're doing is they're pirating signals and putting it on their box. And there's a lot of this stuff out there. I had a friend who was talking about, he says, at my daughter's softball game, there was a guy, and he said, and he's not too bright, going around selling Fire TV sticks that have been hacked. They're easy to hack, and they put pirate content on there, and then you can watch TV. And I think the market has really occurred because of lots of people saying, why am I paying the cable company hundreds of dollars for television when I used to be able to get it through the air free? Mm-hmm. But that's not how these work. The idea of these is, and I don't know if Stream Smart's, I don't think there's anything wrong with Stream Smart's box. It's what they do to it, what probably a third party does to it afterwards to put, just the same thing with the Fire TV stick. It's not Amazon's putting these out with these pirated streams. It's somebody else who's taking them and modifying them and putting pirated streams on there. So cord cutting, let's talk about legitimate.
It's not legal.
Yeah, you have to pay for TV. It's not free. And the question is, who do I pay? Do I pay Comcast, Cox, Spectrum? Do I pay the big cable companies? Or do I pay, actually, wouldn't it be the ideal would be you'd pay the, you'd buy the TV show directly from the company that made it at a fair price, and then you'd only have to pay for the stuff you watch, right?
Right.
That'd be nice.
That would be nice. So that's not the real world.
No. Now, the best deal out there right now, and you're in Huntington Beach, so you can get over-the-air TV if you have an appropriate tuner and antenna. And that's the best deal out there. Get the local LA stations through the air. That's good quality, and it's free. And that's really what the cable companies were created to supplant.
How do you do that, Leo?
And you need an antenna. Remember that? Remember the rabbit ears, Janet, on the
really?
TV?
The old antenna?
Yeah, that still works.
Well, I'm in a condo, though, and there's...
Yeah, so a lot of people can't put a dish up or an antenna on the roof or whatever. So,
right.
So then you can go to over-the-top services that use your internet. Now, you're going to want to do some math here because you're going to have to still get high-speed internet. And
that's okay.
Okay, that usually is from the cable company. In a lot of cases, in a condo, it might be from a third party that the condo contracts with. But so that's
this is from my same cable company.
Yeah, of course it is. See, they still get their money. And by the way, they've slowly raised the price of this. Like it's up to $60 a month now. Why? Because they know you're going to do this. So that's the internet. You got to buy that, and then you can buy over-the-top channels. If you want your locals and you can't put an antenna up, there are several services like Sling TV, YouTube TV, which is the one I use, Fubo, Pluto. There are a number of services. YouTube TV is an example from Google. $50 gets all the locals plus a bunch of other stations. It's kind of like a little cable subscription. Well, wait a minute. That's $50. Now I'm at $110. And did you want Showtime? HBO, $15. Then Netflix is another $11. Pretty soon you're paying $200 again. But you're just not paying the cable company. So that's, and then the cable company, to add insult to injury, you said you're on Comcast? Are you still there?
No, I'm on Spectrum.
Spectrum. Do they have a bandwidth limit per month, do you know? Most of them do. I do on Comcast. I have a terabyte a month, which sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I think Spectrum does. You can check. And so the whole point of that is, if you decide not to get their TV product, which they would prefer that you get, Spectrum has no data caps, somebody's telling me. Good news. They will. So then you can get, so you buy the internet bandwidth. You're going to want at least 50 megabits down, preferably 100 megabits down. So whatever tier that is, because you want to get high def streaming. And then you buy whatever. You may not want YouTube TV. If you don't care, like if you didn't want to watch the Super Bowl or you didn't want to watch the Academy Awards.
Well, I do. Those things I do want to watch.
I know.
Come over and
I know. So does everybody. So now you're going to buy an over-the-top service, whether it's Sling TV or Hulu or YouTube TV, usually around $50 a month. That's going to give you the local. You can go to these sites and get a trial for any of them, or you can even look at what channels. But for instance, YouTube TV gets all the locals, all the LA stations, plus, a few cable stations like Home and Garden TV, Turner Classic Movies, ESPN, the cable news outlets. So that's a pretty good basic package. And then, that's 60, whatever your internet is, mine's 60.
Yeah,
plus,
so it's going to be about 60. I already called Spectrum a while
60
back.
plus 50 for the YouTube TV. That's $110. And then, I don't know what else you want. Netflix is a good choice. That's about $11 or $12 a month.
Yeah, I have that.
You already have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people do, right? So you have to decide what you're going to pay for.
122.
Yeah, you're getting close. You might save money. You might save money. And the quality will be pretty much exactly the same. In some cases, better. The Super Bowl is interesting because Fox just this year, I doubt they'll do it next year, is offering that for free on an app called Fox Now. Or no, Fox Sports, I'm sorry. So you could put but to do this, by the way, you also need to buy some hardware like a Roku or an Apple TV, something you connect up to your TV that's internet connected, because that's now how the TV is coming in. It's not coming in through the cable anymore.
Okay, and I do have the Roku too.
Perfect.
So I've been playing with all this for a while. And I just think there's gotta
So
be
the thing your chiropractor is talking to you about is, by the way, it's at streamsmart.tv if you want to look at it, is pricey. And
well, I know you said it's $300.
Yeah.
If I'm not paying a monthly fee then, for cable.
But there is no such thing as not paying a monthly fee for cable. That's the problem.
Well, I'd pay the $60 still.
Yeah, but that's not going to channel 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's not. See, that's the problem. Is it's pirated, and it may stop working at some point. It may be unreliable. The cops aren't going to come and bust you. They might go and bust the companies that are doing this, and they tend to get shut down. So that's the thing.
I even saw one on Amazon.
Yeah, sure. Amazon isn't exactly great at policing their stuff. So, yeah, there's no free over-the-air TV except if you put up an antenna.
Okay. Well, maybe I should try that, but I don't think it's going to work because I'm downstairs.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it. You're pretty close to Mount Wilson, so I imagine you can do it. Yeah, I have to run, Jan. I hope that helps, though.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Sam Abuelsamid, how are you today?
Hey, Leo.
Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be back.
Sam is a principal.
And when I drive my car, I really am low riding. I mean, in my car, I'm looking up at pretty much everybody else on the road.
That's why
even motorcycles.
He drives a Miata, and when the Miata first came out, the Mazda Miata first came out, I thought, oh, that's so cool, because I'd always wanted a midget, a Triumph, an MG, one of those little English sports cars. And this kind of emulates those, and I thought it'd be so cool. So Gina Smith and we were going down to L.A. This was in the early 90s, to talk to MGM about doing a TV channel, and we said, let's rent one of those, driving down the 405, looking up at the trucks and realizing I could just go right under the truck. I thought, I was terrified. Terrified. Maybe that's because Gina was driving. I don't know. So, no, but I love that car, but I would not want to drive it on the 405 on a regular basis.
Oh, I don't like driving anything on the 405.
No kidding. Yeah. So Sam, lowriding Sam, he's a principal researcher at Navigant Research. He is a podcaster. His Wheel Bearings show is a fantastic show for car lovers, wheelbearings.media, and joins us every week to talk about automotive technology, because there's a lot of tech in today's modern cars.
And future cars will have even more tech.
But one thing they won't have, steering wheels.
Many of them may not have steering wheels.
Is this the Chevy Cruze that you're showing behind you right now?
It's called the Cruze Origin. So you may recall last April, Elon Musk held an autonomy day at Tesla for investors and financial analysts. And he talked about by the end of 2020, they would have 1 million Tesla vehicles on the road that were capable of being robo-taxis.
That's the end of 2020.
Autonomous.
That's this year.
That's this year, yes. And setting aside the issue of whether or not that's actually even technically possible with Tesla's hardware, which I don't want to get into right now, the bigger question is the form factor of Tesla vehicles. What they make is sedans and some crossovers, SUVs like the Model X and the Model S and the Model 3 and soon the Model Y. Really, those vehicles are not actually very well suited to the task of being a robo-taxi, nor are any other vehicles that you can currently buy. Most of what you see, the autonomous vehicles that are being tested, they're based on current generation vehicles that have been modified with all the sensors and computers and everything to allow them to drive themselves around. But vehicles like that as a robo-taxi where there's potentially no driver in there are really not the right kind of form factor for that application. Because if you think about it, the car pulls up to your destination, you get out, and maybe you don't close the door completely, or you take your stuff out of the trunk and forget to close the trunk lid, things like that. So if there's not going to be somebody in the vehicle, you have to have a design that can actually take care of all these little details by itself. Plus, these vehicles, if things work out as intended and they're driving 100,000 miles a year, for traditional vehicles, they would be worn out after 2 or 3 years, and then you'd scrap them and start over again. And even with a Tesla vehicle, Elon's talked about his vehicles lasting 1 million miles. There's still a lot of elements of that vehicle that within a few years are really going to be obsolete, like the computers, the sensors, as the technology evolves. So what Cruise has done in collaboration with their owners at GM, General Motors, and Honda is they've developed this vehicle that they unveiled in San Francisco last week called the Origin. And this is the type of vehicle, and we've seen others like it, that this is what robo-taxis are going to look like.
No controls of any kind for the passengers or any driver, right?
No, I mean, other
it's
than
just a living room on
some
wheels.
Yeah, some buttons, to maybe tell it, okay, start the ride, or stop now, or things like that.
How do you tell it where to go? There's probably an app, right?
Yeah, so you would use an app just like you do today with an Uber or Lyft or something like that, right. Or you could do it in the vehicle potentially via voice control if you want to change your destination. But they've designed this with what they call carriage seating. So all the seats face the middle of the vehicle. And Zoox, another Bay Area company that is planning to launch a vehicle, they're developing their own autonomous system. They're building a vehicle very much like this, and there's others out there like this. But one of the other things that's different about this, you've got dual sliding doors on each side, so it opens up and they close automatically when everybody gets out or gets in. The vehicle is designed to be modular, so the main structure of the vehicle is designed to last 1 million miles. But things like the sensors and the computers and also the seats, because if you got people getting in and out of this thing all day long every day,
wear out. Yeah.
You need stuff that's a lot more durable than what's designed for normal consumer applications. So the interiors could be easily swapped in and out, and you can reconfigure it to do package deliveries and things like that. So it's got a very modular design. So the things that are more likely to get obsoleted soon, are easy to change and replace on a regular basis. So you keep the overall cost of the vehicle down.
Okay, all of that sounds great. When and how? Aren't there regulations? I mean, aren't there laws that prevent this?
Yeah. So there are laws about there are currently federal motor vehicle safety standards that require you to have human controls in the vehicle, things like a steering wheel and pedals and turn signals and mirrors on the outside so you can see. Manufacturers are currently working with federal regulators on some of those things to try to get those regulations changed for autonomous vehicles, and there's some moves going on. GM has applied for a waiver to build a certain number of these. This particular vehicle you're probably not going to see until early 2022 in production, and it won't be available for sale. It'll only be available through mobility services like ride-hailing services operated by Cruise and others.
So is Cruise going to do their own? It's not going to be like the Uber brand.
Cruise is they've actually got their own ride-hailing platform that they've been using in San Francisco for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Employees.
Yeah, but they have safety drivers, and they look like regular automobiles. These are not. These look like little living rooms.
Right. Their current vehicles are modified versions of the Chevy Bolt. Same car that you have.
Yeah.
And so that's what they plan to launch their service with at some point, maybe later this year or early next year. And then this one, what they call the Origin, will be probably early 2022. It'll be in production. But I've heard that you might actually see it somewhere this summer. And you'll probably start seeing them out testing around San Francisco later this year as well.
So this is happening. This is happening pretty fast.
In some ways,
happening. Yeah,
it's
and it's legal to do this. I mean, they're already doing it with safety drivers. It's legal to have a car without a steering wheel, brakes, accelerator, or safety driver.
That part's not yet legal.
Okay, so they're going to have to get regulations to.
Right. That's what they're working on the regulations for, is the part about not having the controls in there.
Yeah. Wow. Have you ridden in something like this?
I've ridden in vehicles like this in other types of
in
autonomous
a city,
shuttles.
in traffic,
like on college campuses. There's a company called Navia that builds a similar kind of vehicle.
Makes me nervous.
They're operating some at University of Michigan.
It's not like I'm going to lunge over the front seat and hit the brakes or steer out of an accident, but I kind of like the idea that I could if I needed to. This one, you're going, and you're going. Whatever the computer does, that's where you go. There's no way to get out. You're stuck in the thing, and for all you know, you could end up on a container ship to China. You don't know what's going to happen.
Or some island in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thank you, Sam.
Talk to you next time, Leo.
We're talking about the Silicon Valley episode.
Yeah. From season 1.
Yeah,
that was a good one. Like for example, in Waymo's vehicles, they have a little panel,
emergency
in the
override,
that's accessible by the passengers. There's
got to be a big red button that says "Stop, let me out."
It's actually a blue button in the case of Waymo. But the test vehicles all have big red buttons. Waymo has, there's 4 buttons. There's one that is, just stop the vehicle now, and it's supposed to pull over and stop. There's another one to open and close the doors, things like that.
Yeah, because if you're feeling sick or something, you want to be able to, emergency override.
Well, right, and this is also one of the reasons why there's going to be a lot of sensors inside of these vehicles.
Right.
So you're going to be watched all the time when you're riding in one of these vehicles. So you're not going to have any privacy because they want.
Oh, there'll be a human on the other end of the camera somewhere in the network operations center.
Not necessarily. Probably not watching all the time.
But they'll record
at least some sort of automated system. And if there's something that they need to check on, then they'll probably bring in a human to verify.
They're going to have to do that because you can imagine all kinds of illegal activities or sketchy activities that might go on.
Even to know, if the interior needs cleaning, or if you leave something behind.
They
don't want it running around all day. If somebody, gets, spills something in there, or has an accident.
Is this because humans are expensive? Is that what's pushing this along? They just don't want to have a human involved?
Well, that's certainly part of it, but there's also the safety factor and the congestion factor dealing with traffic. So, safety factor, 38,000 people a year die in traffic crashes in the United States. And they
But that's not what Chevy's trying to solve with this.
That's part of it. By taking the human out of the driving loop, they hope to make, transportation safer. Yeah. And then, the other part is cost, obviously. And also, especially in cities, if you can shift people from owning their own vehicles, today in the United States, we have 7 parking spaces for every vehicle.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And the waste of materials building all these vehicles that are, only used maybe a couple hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, personally owned vehicles typically sit idle 95% of the day. Yeah. So, if you can get more people into shared vehicles that are autonomous, you can have more cost-effective transportation for more people. At least this is the theory. Yeah. It's yet to be actually proven, but you could have safer, more cost-effective transportation for more people while using fewer vehicles. So you have fewer vehicles that are being more highly utilized.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll get used to it. The first time you get in, it'll be a little weird, but you'll get used to it, right?
Most people do.
Yeah. And I could see in a congested city, that like San Francisco or New York, that it would be actually great because you're not going at highway speeds, and it's just going to get you there.
the average speed today in Manhattan is 8 miles an hour.
It's awful.
So-
It's awful. You can walk. You can almost
It's not
walk
much better than
faster.
that in San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, interesting. So they think 2022, end of the year 2022, you'll start to see these if they get government approval.
This particular vehicle should be in production by early 22, maybe the end of next year.
But you got to get government approval. Do you think that's going to go smoothly?
We'll see. I've heard some stuff I don't have confirmation on yet that should make it easier, but we'll see.
Should be interesting.
I think the current administration is inclined to let companies do whatever they want.
Yeah. But it's not I don't think it'd be a federal law. It has to be.
Yeah.
It would
it'd be federal.
You could have a federal law.
Because the feds
that would
control,
override
motor vehicle standards. All right.
Thank
I'll
you,
let you go.
Sammy.
Talk to you next week.
Bye-bye. Leo Laporte. We are seeing a revolution. What would you do if you hailed I get an Uber and all of a sudden the Uber showed up, but there was no human inside. It was just a living room on wheels. And would you get in? The first time you might not, right? But eventually you might. With some trepidation, shaking, watching, hand hovered over the emergency override let me out of here button. But I guess you'd get used to it, yeah? I don't know. We might it's so amazing how things change so fast that we don't really think about it. In 5 years, you might just be commonplace. You just get in a car, it just goes. There's no human. Now, I feel bad for all the people right now who make a living driving. I think it was estimated, I saw a number, I think 1.4% of all the jobs in the U.S. are driving vehicles of some kind. Those jobs, in 5 or 10 years probably will all disappear. Even, trucks. In fact, there are a lot of autonomous vehicles, a lot of autonomous trucks now on the highways. That's not at all uncommon. It's a strange and wonderful world we live in. 8888 Ask Leo. G. Scott, ready to go out on the slopes in South Lake Tahoe, decided to stop on his way. Are your skis already on?
No, not on, but they're ready to go. Got them waxed and ready
to run. Are you a snowboarder or a skier?
Yep. Skier.
Nice.
I snowboarded for a while back before skis got better. Now we got fat skis and good technology. Technology is good for everything, skiing included. Wow. You wouldn't think. Well, be safe out there, okay? Yeah, we don't want to. We can't afford to lose any listeners. No. I'm glad to be listening today. So my main question today, I heard you and Scott talking yesterday, Wilkinson, about 4K and the football game.
Yep.
And, haven't got a 4K TV. I'm interested in, hey, it might be fun to watch it in 4K. Problem is I got about a 4 or 5 year old Onkyo AV receiver. Now it's got HDMI. I kind of bought it as much for an HDMI splitter for Xbox, PlayStation, Roku's, DirecTV, all that.
Perfect sense. Yeah.
But it isn't a 4K AV. I got DirecTV, I got Roku Premiere, I got Roku Ultra, so I got the 4K video part. Will that AV receiver pass that 4K through?
Welcome to the upgrade cascade. You buy a new TV and then, I guess I need 4K everything else, including I had to buy a new 4K AV receiver.
Yeah.
So you have to buy a new, if you're going to use, now you could directly, if you have a Roku Ultra, an Apple TV, modern Apple TV, if you have a Fire TV or the Fire Cube, if you have a 4K capable streamer, you could plug it directly into the 4K TV and bypass your Onkyo. The problem with that is that you won't get the surround sound. Well, actually, you might. If you have audio return channel, you could put it back in to the Onkyo. The Onkyo could then do the 5.1, I guess.
Okay.
I think you need to buy. I bought all new stuff, and it was really annoying because I didn't think about it ahead of time. I just got the 4K TV, and then I thought,
right, and I don't do a lot of Blu-ray or anything that I need the 4K all the time. But what the heck, I got a 4K TV, and I would kind of like to take advantage of it.
Yeah,
I
just set up. So something to know about with the Super Bowl is they're shooting it not in 4K, but 1080p. 60 hertz. 60 hertz refresh is twice the normal. So actually, that's a great idea. And then they're going to upscale it. Plus, you don't have to if you have DirecTV or if you have Xfinity's X1 smart box, your cable company might offer it if you have a smart box, or you can get it over the top
with the Genie.
Yeah, so you'll have to check, but I believe that DirecTV will be offering it as long as you have a 4K capable smart box. It'll do that, and that you plug that directly into the TV. Maybe you have to listen to TV sound, which would be ironic. You've got a beautiful 4K UHD HDR signal screen picture, but you're listening on the TV speakers.
Right, out of the back of the TV.
That would be kind of ironic. I set up this morning, after talking to Scott, the Fox Sports app. If you have a 4K streamer, I put it on my Roku Ultra and put the Fox Sports app on there. You can use that to watch the Super Bowl on a week from today. In 4K. The fact that it's 1080p upgraded to 4K doesn't bother me because the real benefit will be HDR, high dynamic range, and 60 frames a second. I think that's going to make a big difference. When you have a lot of action, a lot of motion, if you have a slower frame rate, that gets blurry. And a faster frame rate means it should be crisper. As the ball's getting thrown, as people are getting tackled, it should be better. The halftime show will be in 4K. I don't know if HDR is going to make a difference because these things tend to be so well lit. You're not going to need. There's no inky pools of blackness on an NFL football field.
I'm 6 months younger than you, so I remember rabbit ears, and even going to DirecTV back in the 90s was a great upgrade. So
well, and I just read an article that said, it's not going to be as big a leap as it was from SD to HD. When you finally started seeing sports in HD, it was like, wow. That is so crisp. It's hurting my eyes. I mean, it won't be. You won't get that same kind of wow, but it should be pretty darn nice. Pretty darn nice. So again, broadcast will not do it. If you're using
audio
over the air with your regular cable, will not do it. You're going to have to do search for the way to do it on the system that you have. I'm sorry. What was your question?
I was just going to say that. So if I sacrifice audio. Because, like I say, I've got like 3 or 4 choices to get 4K.
Audio might still work. If you have an ARC...
I do have that.
Problem is, that's really for content...
How about optical?
Yeah, optical might do it. What's the optical going from your TV to the AV receiver, to the Onkyo?
I can. Right now it goes to my Sennheiser earbuds, but I could... Maybe I can get, because I think I did see an optical in on my Onkyo. Most
AV receivers do have optical in, so yeah, that might be the solution. It's hard for me to tell. You're getting the audio through the direct connection on the HDMI. Yeah, that should work.
Right.
As long as your Onkyo will decode 5.1, the audio isn't different, just the video.
Okay, yeah, and I'm 7.2 there, so it's modern enough receiver that
very nice. And you do what? Honestly, we talk about visuals, but honestly, I think audio is so important, and that surround sound with sporting events is amazing. There's always, I don't know why, there's always a lady, my wife noticed this, screaming. Every sports event, there's somebody going, ah! And you can hear them. For some reason, they always mix them to the surrounds. So every time I'm watching a football or a baseball game and I'm sitting here, it sounds like there's somebody screaming behind me. It gets me. Sometimes it scares me. What? Oh, it's just or the beer guy is going, Miller, beer, get your beer. He's over behind me. But I love that. You feel like you're right there.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what we got the good stereo for, was to get that good sound.
That's right. That's right.
So you got time for a quick iPhone question?
Sure.
So I got my wife the iPhone 11 Pro. She's pretty happy with that. But
I bet.
Backup, the auto backup, it says it can't work. It only shows either 5 megabytes or maybe 500 megabytes. But I think it's 5 megabytes. I think you get 1 gig without paying extra for Apple.
You get more than that.
Back up some of her stuff automatically?
You get more than that. So I don't know why it's not working. You probably have used it up. You can log into iCloud.com and see what storage you've used. If you're doing an iCloud backup on your phone, it backs up to iCloud automatically over the airwaves. That's the most convenient. But just remember, it's not encrypted on Apple's servers. Apple has access to those and has handed them over to law enforcement and whatever. So it isn't completely private when you're doing that. Furthermore, you can back up messages, including WhatsApp. Those then become unencrypted. Just so you know, Paul Manafort learned that, and it was to his detriment. I think he's in jail right now. So if you want really, I think I might change my attitude. I use iCloud backup because it's fast and easy, but I'm changing my tune. If you use the encrypted direct backup using a USB cable to your computer, that is completely private, faster, and you don't have to pay for storage. So I'm thinking that's the way to go. Something I've just learned from Rene Ritchie, and he said he was going to do a vector about this. It's unclear. Oh, that's what you're talking about, Mike. You're talking about a Madden simulation. Okay. Boy, that looks like a good game. It's unclear. So Apple holds the keys to all iCloud backups. We know that because Apple has many times offered the FBI that data. In most recently in the Pensacola Naval Air Station shooting. Plus, we know that because of that, not only can law enforcement get it, but it's potentially hackable. And we think that that's what happened. Remember when the celebrity nude photos got leaked out? They were stored in iCloud. And using social engineering, iCloud was hacked. Doesn't matter. If it were true trust no one encryption, there would be no way to get that information without hacking you. It's unclear. We don't know exactly what happened. So if you back up to iCloud, which is convenient, Apple does not they have access to it. They're not that they will, but they have access to it, just so you know. If you back up to your hard drive using a USB cable in iTunes or whatever Apple calls it these days, music. If you sync to your computer and you use the encrypted, you check the encrypted box. Let me just see where that lives these days. Is that in music? I was talking about this yesterday. I guess it's in the sync tool. When you plug in your phone, the sync tool shows up in the menu. Anyway, check the box that says encrypted, and then type a password which you remember, and only you'll have access to it. That's, I think, going to be my future way. It's certainly the easiest way when you get a new iPhone. Problem is you have to remember it. iCloud is nice because it's always running in the background, right? His isn't working, maybe, I don't know why, but probably because he ran out of space. Usually they harass you until you put more space on it. I have 200 gigabytes. It's not horribly expensive. And that's enough to back up all my stuff. Yes, I know. I see it in the chat room. Yeah, I love Onkyo. I ended up buying a Denon, which is the same company, I think. Isn't Onkyo part of D&M Holdings? Hello there, my friend. It's time to talk tech. Yes, the geek is on the radio. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We got your smartphones. We got your smart watches. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. I'd love to talk to you if you got a question, a comment, a suggestion, a helpful tip for any of our callers. We're all in this together. It's kind of like a user group of the airwaves. 8888 Ask Leo. All the stuff we do goes up on the website, including the show itself afterwards, audio and video at techguylabs.com. That's free. There's no membership, no sign up. It's very simple. Just go to techguylabs.com so you don't have to write anything down while you're listening today. Mark on the line from Toronto, Canada. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Leo. You played a song last hour called Unbreakable, and I hope that'll be a good theme for this segment. I have been trying to research phone cases.
Oh, yeah.
And this is apparently one of the most complicated choices here. I see some information that you provided just by Googling, like back in 2016, but I wanted to get an update. So I think I've narrowed it down. Can I mention brand names?
Of course.
On the show?
You bet.
Okay, so I've got it narrowed down between the following 8 brands. So I'm just curious to know. So you'll see I've done my homework.
Holy cow. Let me just say, before you give me the list, let me just say, This is a crowded category because it's a very high margin category. For 50 cents worth of plastic and maybe $1.50 worth of marketing, because there's a lot of advertising involved, you can make a ton of money. These cases, 40, 50, 60 bucks. A lot of times when I get new phones, because I get new phones maybe 8 times a year because I have to get all the, just try the newest ones, I'll just buy a $1.50. Well, they're a little more expensive. Maybe at $5, just a kind of a clear plastic sleeve. And the reason I do that is because, I don't drop my phones. So some of this comes down to your history. But also because for most situations, that's adequate protection. The problem with the phone is this glass front. And unless you get a case that has a lid that covers the glass front, which I find inconvenient, that's its biggest vulnerability. If the phone hits on a corner, these just little plastic sheaths will protect them. If it hits on the back, there'll be some protection. Most modern phones, the backs are glass as well, even though they are not clear. They're vulnerable because they're made out of glass. And as my friend Steve Martin told me once, they made the iPhone slippery and out of glass. That's just a recipe for disaster. So tell me what cases you think you're looking at. I mean, honestly, they're all very similar. Even the ones that say, we're guaranteed you could drive. I've dropped phone cases off the roof to test them. But most of them are going to do roughly the same job. What are you looking at?
Well, first, let me mention that I just got the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.
Love that phone.
Not the large one, but the little one.
Very nice.
Note 10.
Yep.
Okay, so...
Little. It's a little one. It's only 6 inches. Okay, go ahead.
Right, I know. By comparison.
Little is relative these days.
But yeah, right, exactly. So, that's got the curved edges on the screen.
The glass goes almost all the way around. It goes right to the bezel, over the bezel. So, those phones are fairly fragile. That's what my daughter uses. And she, unlike me, will break a phone every 6 months, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Well, I don't plan on dropping it, but
no one does.
Dropping it, so right. So
they're slippery.
Here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
exactly. So here's what I'm looking for before I even mention the cases. So I'm looking for something that is as slim and minimalist. I'm not looking for something that looks like it comes out of a video game or a Transformers cartoon. I'm looking for something with a decent grip on it, so it's not going to be too slippery.
That honestly is one of the biggest features of cases is they add some grippiness. Yeah.
If it's a good one, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking for something that has a decent drop protection. Probably, I've seen some that are drop tested to 10, 12 feet. I mean, that should be, I would hope,
again,
to protect it.
Yeah. The problem is where it lands. If it lands on the front,
how it lands.
If it goes 2 feet, but it lands on a pointed rock on the front, it's going to break. There's just nothing. No case will prevent that.
Well, I will get a tempered glass as well for the screen.
I never do that, but that's
you never do.
No.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I've narrowed it down. Apparently, watching all the drop tests and reading lots of articles, and this is, of course, all very confusing. And to make things even more complicated, not every company is even making anything yet for the Note 10. I don't know why.
Oh, no. Maybe not every company, but Note 10's been out for long enough that all the big companies are making Note 10 cases.
I'm not seeing so much. I'm only seeing a relatively handful compared to iPhone and other Samsung phones. But anyway, the brands that I see seem to be the 8 best. I've narrowed it down. I've got OtterBox, of course, LifeProof.
Yep. Those are the 2 that I would name. Go ahead.
Okay. Pelican. Mm-hmm. Mouse. MOUS. Have you heard of this one?
No, never heard of them.
Okay.
There's a lot of Chinese companies now that make these. Some of them, I suspect, are made by one company and sold by 20 others.
Could be, yeah. Tech 21, which is supposedly a British company. I don't know if they make it in China as well, but it's a British company. UAG and a brand called iBlason, I-BLASON. They also apparently make something called the SUP case or the soup case, SUP. CASE. And the last one is, did I mention UAG?
Yep.
And then the last one is Zizo or Zizzo, Z-I-Z-O.
Yeah. I've used cases from almost all of those.
Who do you like?
They all seem the same to me. I think your big problem is your spec, which is you want it thin and light. Because, of course, the most protective cases look like Army surplus. They're
Right.
you know, and
Did I mention preferably clear as well?
oh man,
Clear, make the phone look as nice as possible.
oh man. Well, I don't honestly think there's going to be too much of a difference between cases that are. In fact, that's why I buy no brand. They're just they're poly plastic cases. They feel like rubber. They cover the back of it and the sides. They provide corner protection. Corner protection is probably pretty important. For some reason, phones when they land often land on the corner. You hope they do. Honestly, my Pixel 4, I'm not even putting a case on at this point, and I did drop it, and the corner now is a little damaged. When I get my daughter a case, because I know she's going to drop it, I get her an OtterBox. And OtterBox does make cases with covers, but those are ugly cases. And honestly, a not ugly, thin OtterBox, UAG, LifeProof, iBlaze, and any of these, I would guess, going to be almost identical in their protection. It's just providing you with a little bit of protection.
All right, let me ask you this last question.
Yeah.
Some of them, like I looked at the OtterBox Symmetry Clear.
Yeah.
And that's a harder, if you kind of squeeze it, it's a harder material. And then the Tech 21 is a softer, more pliable, squishy material. I'm hearing two completely different things. Some experts say the softer, the better, because think of it, it's more cushion.
Yep.
So
that's what I use. Yep. I like something that's going to bounce. Yep. Hard cases, but look, any case is going to protect it, because even if it's a hard case, if the case shatters, big deal.
Right.
The symmetry is very similar, I would submit, identical to the $9 cases I buy on Amazon. They're all pretty much the same, and I think they're fine. It's not going to provide 100% protection. You might look at the other option that I sometimes use is a wallet case. Apple and others sell these. I'm sure Samsung sells them, and I'm sure third parties make them, where the idea is you're going to put your money and your credit cards in here, and almost all of them also have a lid. So they cover up. They look like a leather folio kind of. And that will provide you better protection because it's going to cover the front, and it's relatively aesthetic. I don't want a hard plastic lid on my phone. I think that's ugly. I feel like this is a very, you're being kind of obsessive,
right?
Which is fine, but I don't know if you're going to get more protection because of the amount of energy you're putting into this. I think they're all going to be roughly the same. It's an aesthetic choice. You know what you want. Understand that nothing that doesn't cover the front is going to give you full protection, regardless of whether it's soft, hard, clear, shock-proof, whatever. You're not going to drop it off a building.
No, of course not.
No. Really, what you're trying to protect it is the odd, it slipped out of your hand and it fell a couple of feet from waist level onto the ground. And again, if it hits wrong, nothing's going to protect it. But most of the time, for some reason, it seems to hit on the corner. And I do think that, it's more an aesthetic thing. It's just ugly if you've got dinged up corners or cracked glass on the back. If the front cracks, you're going to have to replace it because it's just unusable. My daughter, for a long time, said, well, I'm late because my phone is cracked right where the time is. I said, well, that's convenient.
So is there a brand name that you trust for your own? I said
No. I mean, I like LifeProof and OtterBox when I buy my daughter a case, but then I'm buying those big shock absorber cases for her. For me, I'm getting the equivalent of the Symmetry case from OtterBox, which is just a clear polyethylene, I don't even know what it would be, PCB or something case. That's
I've seen TPU, and HPX. Any idea what these
No, they're different kinds of plastic, that's all.
Okay.
I usually get the TPU cases. One thing about these clear TPU cases is they tend to yellow with age. And it may be that a better quality material won't yellow with age. But you know what? When it costs $9, who cares?
Yeah, you don't care.
Get another one.
Buy another one.
Yeah.
Right.
I usually get TPU cases, and if you search for go to Amazon and search for Note 10 TPU case, you'll see a dozen of them. Let me just see. I bet you under $10.
Is there a certain name that you do?
No, I always get whatever is the cheapest. So here's one for $6.25. Here's one for, that seems to be the cheapest. But why spend $40? Oh, here's one for $5.
I'd be afraid to trust these no-name. I would rather go with a $20, like, for example, Tech 21, I think, has like a $25 version, and that's fine if it's a good product and it's going to protect the phone.
I usually get Spigen, Spigen. That's a pretty good brand name, or Ringkey, Ringke.
Yeah.
Both make TPU cases. If you want clear, you have an infinite choice ranging from $5 probably to $500 because, there are a lot of people who say, no, I want the better one. If you care about edge damage, then there are cases that have reinforced corners, reinforced sides that might provide you with better protection. I found anything on the corners is sufficient.
You ever used a Pelican brand?
I use Pelican cases all the time. They make the best protective cases for camera gear. In fact, all of our video equipment and stuff ships in Pelican cases. So they're they're a very good, well-known company when it comes to cases. They
should be making great iPhone or
maybe
smartphone cases.
I mean, that's predicated on the premise that you could make something that would Now, see, you limited it. If you say, I don't care if it looks like it's a military-grade tank, then I can guarantee you we can get a case that's going to look ugly, but is going to protect it. If you say, I want clear, thin protection, I would guess they're all exactly the same protective level.
Okay. No, every one of the companies I mentioned has a reasonably clear, thin, minimalist case. That's why I narrowed it down.
And I just buy the $5 ones on Amazon when I get when a new phone is coming. I'll get the cheap $5. That's what's on my iPhone 11 Pro Max right now. And and honestly, but I don't drop my phone very often.
Well, we all try not to, but of course, that's the whole purpose.
I think the worst case you can get is the one they sell at the cell phone store. Those are way marked up. They're not necessarily any better. But yeah, Pelican's a good company. I'm sure they make excellent cases. They make great cases for my fancy gear, where I really do want to protect it, especially if I'm packing it on a plane. Yeah, let me look at the Pelican. Actually, it's just maybe they're not related. It's Pelican with a C. Yeah, that's not related.
No, it's the same company.
It is the same company.
There's a Pelican Voyager.
Okay.
I'm
seeing
now
the Adventurer, the Voyager, notice the difference on these. They don't have clear frames. They're going to give you a little more protection. And these are dual layer. Dual layer is like an insulated shock proof. That's going to give you better protection. If you like those, I think those are probably a good one to go with. Those are going to give you better protection than just the TPU.
So that was $25 on sale at at one of the cell phone places.
Which one, the Voyager?
The Voyager, yeah.
Looks great. I'm looking at it right now. It's not fully clear. It's just clear on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks great. And it's guaranteed for life. You break it, we replace it.
Well, they'll replace the case.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. The other thing that they do, which I kind of like, they offer a stand. I don't usually put a clip on my phone.
Yeah. Kickstand.
Yeah, they offer a kickstand, which is nice if you're on a plane and you want to watch a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, attached to the belt clip. That's convenient. That's a nice little feature. Item.
That's a good price for that. I think that's fair. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Way more energy than I would really spend on a phone case, but I mean, if you think about it, you got in some cases $1,000 device that you're just kind of juggling around all day. Maybe I should pay more attention to that. Oh, I know what I should do right now. I should mention our sponsor for the podcast. We have sponsors for the radio show, but the sponsors for the podcast are a whole separate entity. In this case, it's a tool I've been using for years and I love. I was so pleased when they said, hey, you should do some ads for us. I said, yeah, I'm a happy customer. Zapier, Zapier. How can I describe Zapier? It's an automation tool on the web, lets you connect everything you do, 1,500 plus apps, including all the business tools you use like Salesforce, MailChimp, and lets you put them all together in multi-step zaps to automate. I'll give you the best way to give you an example. And I could even show you my Zapier account because I have lots of little zaps for home automation. The one that is used constantly is for prep for the show. So I'm in my news reader. I use InnoReader. And whenever I star an article, that's saying that this one I want to save for use on one of our shows. Zapier, which is monitoring that RSS feed in the background. It's not running on my computer. It's off on the web. It monitors that. It goes, Leo's favorited an article, takes the link for the article, the headline, any information I include, and puts it up on Pinboard, which is a bookmarking site that I use. And then, because it works with Pinboard, Zapier takes Pinboard and adds an entry to a Google Docs spreadsheet, works with that too, that we use. And then Karsten uses that to create the rundowns for the show. And that's all without me doing anything. It's kind of amazing. 4.5 million people use Zapier right now. And you might say, well, that sounds hard to do. It's very easy, very simple. My scale tweets every time I weigh myself, thanks to Zapier. I use it for all sorts of things. If you're in sales, you got a new client, a new customer, a new lead, you can add them to Salesforce automatically. You can automatically notify your team about new opportunities. You can make it so it automatically pings you to do something. Engage your leads, that kind of thing. It's just remarkable. It's the easiest way to automate your work. And it's the only one that supports multi-step zaps, so you can do more complicated, more sophisticated stuff. Zapier, Zapier.com/techguy. Go there right now, connects the apps you use the most, and let Zapier take it from there. 4.5 million people use Zapier right now. And I love this stat. On average, each of them saves 40 hours a month. That's a whole free work week, because Zapier's doing the work. You don't need a developer. You don't need to be a programmer. It's easy to figure out. It's step by step. You just try it. We got 2 weeks free for you. Through the end of the month, go to Zapier.com/techguy, Zapier.com/techguy. Free 14-day trial of Zapier. I'm telling you, everybody should be using Zapier. It's just simply the best way to automate. And I turned to it when I was trying to do some stuff and I couldn't get it done anywhere else. And somebody mentioned Zapier. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. You should see all the zaps I have. That's what they call them, the little routines. I just love them. Zapier.com/techguy. Thank you, Zapier, for supporting the Tech Guy podcast. And thank you, Tech Guy podcast listener, for supporting us by going to Zapier.com/techguy. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Line 4, Bob in San Jose. Hello, Bob.
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I'm well. How are you?
Great. Go 49ers.
Niners.
Got to throw that in.
Yes, thank you.
We're
very excited. You live just down the road from Levi's Stadium.
The cord.
Yes, cutting the cord.
And I'm going to get rid of my DirecTV. Got YouTube TV and been trying it out. And I have built-in Roku on my TV set.
Nice.
Okay, which is pretty crappy because it's only wireless.
Yes.
So would it be faster if I got an external Roku box that I could maybe hook up to, Ethernet?
I always recommend that. So one thing you'll notice is different boxes have different versions of the software, of the Netflix, the YouTube, whatever software. Weirdly, some of them are better than others. And my experience with smart TVs is they rarely get updated. So you're most likely on older versions of the software. The processor in the TV, even though it's an expensive unit, is not as good as an external Roku. I think getting a Roku Ultra is well worth it. And if it dies or you need to update it, you don't have to buy a whole new TV, you just buy the external box. So though
the TV I bought was an inexpensive one anyway.
Yeah,
though I'm not into 4K and all that.
We all have smart TVs now. But I always think the external box is better. And my favorite is the Roku. If you buy stuff on iTunes, if you buy stuff from Apple, get an Apple TV. But I think the Roku has the most channels, the most flexibility, and is the best price. So highly recommend you get a Roku. You'll have a lot of fun. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Sorry I had to run so quickly. Did that answer your question? You have any
follow-up? And just a real quick follow-up on that is that YouTube TV, the only thing I have a problem with that is trying to, change the channels. It's kind of slow doing that. And then having to go down that long menu to find stuff.
That's the TV. It would be better on a Roku much.
It would be. Okay,
oh, yeah.
Cool.
That's, again,
that's
that's a slow processor.
You know?
Yeah.
Wasabi,
Yeah.
LastPass,
Yeah.
users of that stuff.
Bless you.
Teach that stuff to my clients and stuff. So,
Thank you.
I want you to know that I do
appreciate
support
it.
you.
You keep us on the air, Bob. Thank you.
You got it.
I really am
Thanks,
grateful.
Leo. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
Niners!
Go Niners!
Chris Marquardt is a amazing photographer in his own right, but also leads great photo workshops all over the world, going to Lake Baikal, right? In Siberia.
Just a couple of weeks, yeah.
Wow. He's crazy. He's going to Siberia in the winter. You can find out more about his workshops at discoverthetopfloor.com.
Not that crazy. There's so many people who do way more crazy things.
Well, I mean, I'm jealous. I hope, I hope to travel on some of these workshops with you soon.
We have warm clothes and warm cars, so
you like cold weather though, because you also do that crazy schooner trip up to Svalbard in the Arctic to see the reindeer, and some of your pictures. You must like taking pictures of ice. The pictures of ice on the rigging of that schooner, it looks so cold.
Well, it is, yes, but that's what technology is for, to help you cope with it. So it's not too bad.
Nice. All right, I'll have to get used to it. I'm going to do it though. It looks so fun. So what are we doing today for our photography?
So I've brought us another bunch of these ABC assignments that we started a few weeks ago. And the reason is, and it's 3 little tiny 5-minute assignments, so you can try them out. Maybe some will go a bit longer if you allow them to. And I really want to give people an opportunity with these to try something new, to just do something in a different way that you used to. And this way, that little bit of experimentation can take you really far. And I remember a lot of the things I do now in photography came out of just this little bit of shaking things up. So first little assignment, again, take 5 minutes for each, or as long as you want. The A in the ABC is the aperture assignment, and that's about technique.
Aperture,
so
yes.
Set the camera to aperture priority mode,
All right.
A or AV on Canon cameras. If you have a telephoto lens, use that. And then set the aperture to the smallest number that it can go to, which, depending on the lens, might be a 1.8, might be a 4.0, might be a 5.6. And then take a photo of something. And then set the aperture to the highest number you can find. And take that same photo again. And just look what that change in these numbers does to the foreground, to the background, to the sharpness in different areas, maybe even to the camera shake. If you have a very small aperture, means the camera lets a lot of almost no light in, then it has to compensate with raising the shutter speed, making the shutter speed longer, and this way you might see some motion blur and stuff. So just doing that little experiment. If you like shooting an automatic, try the aperture game. Right. It's definitely worth just trying it out, see if that does something for you, and learn something from it. B, the burst.
Burst.
So cameras have a burst mode, or most of them do. Even your smartphone does. And it's a really good way to capture motion, but not in like a video, but to capture there's something happening, some complex motion, and you want to find the right spot. What a professional photographer will do is they'll switch their camera to burst mode, and then they'll just take like 10 photos of that motion, and then they will just pick out the one that shows it the best. So
film is cheap these days. Take a lot of pictures.
Right. Find out how your camera's burst mode works. This might be a good prompt to go and get that old manual out and have a look in there. But knowing that, having that mode ready for when it's interesting, when something interesting happens. On your smartphone, it's probably just holding the finger on the button, at least with some of them that's like that. Find that out, put it in your arsenal of tricks, in your bag of tricks, and capture motion at the very specific right point in time. And last but not least, the C in our ABC is more on the compositional side. It's the contact assignment. And here's what I wanted to do. I want you to find 2 things that are at maybe two similar things that are, one is closer to the camera, one's a bit further away. That could be something like two cups on a table, two trees, two cars, stuff that, again, both shouldn't be at the same distance, but one should be a bit further away. And if these things stand free, if there's nothing distracting in the background, that works even better. And now I want you to take 3 photos. Compose one photo where those two don't visually touch, where they are apart from each other, where there's a gap between them. And then take a second photo where they touch, where they have contact. Just exactly touch, and then take a third photo where they overlap. And then look at those photos, compare them, and look at how they make you feel, because you will see that overlapping things are like have more of a feeling of belonging together, of being kind of a unity in the picture, whereas if you keep them separate, that does something. A lot of people don't really like when things are just touching, two things just touching, that feels weird. You kind of want to overlap or not overlap at all, but that in between state where they just barely touch each other, that is something that, well, try it out and see what it does for you.
Very interesting.
Remember, you can share those mini assignment photos in the Tech Guy group on Flickr. There's always space for these kind of things.
Wow. So A for aperture, play with the aperture, and do it with a telephoto lens.
Well, telephoto helps to get this depth a bit more pronounced, to get this the bokeh comes out a bit better. So telephoto lens with the aperture, B for the burst, and C for the different compositions with contacting and not contacting.
Nice.
There we go.
I love it. And of course, I guess we'll put this on our show notes. So if you're not been writing this down, James DeRuvo has, and we'll put that up in the show notes so you can get your assignment. And this is not an assignment where we're going to review it or anything. This is just for you to get out there and you review it, you look at it, you see what happens. This is a learning thing for you.
And share it with others on the Tech Guy Flickr group. Rennie Silverman will probably put a little post up about this. Point. So
yeah. While you're doing that, you might want to submit for our monthly assignment. This is an idea to get you to take pictures too, but Chris does review at the end of the month his 3 favorites. We are at letter J, I think. Is that right?
It is journey.
Journey. We're looking for pictures to illustrate the word, the idea, the concept. You decide what that means. Could be a rock band, could be a trip, could be any, I don't know. Journey. And tag it with the word TG for Tech Guy, TG Journey. Upload it to Flickr, which is a free photo sharing site, flickr.com. You do have to be a member to participate of the Tech Guy group. That's free too. Just join the Tech Guy group on flickr.com. Submit it up to 1 picture a week. Renee will welcome you to the group and accept your submission, and we'll review a few of them. We're only a couple more weeks to go, I think. 3 more weeks. Thank you, Chris Marquardt.
Thank you, Leo.
Always a lot of fun. Don't forget Chris's photo workshops are coming up. Wow, it's just this. I'm so jealous. Lake Baikal, the Big Ice Journey, then Ethiopia.
Then the tribes in Ethiopia.
The tribes, and then Bhutan. And these are you've done all of these before, so you have contacts. You're set up.
Well, we're all set up, but we're mixing things up this time. So it's not the exact same thing we've done before. We're mixing all of these 3 up in a new and different way.
Fun.
So, yeah.
Discover the top floor to learn more. Thank you, Chris Marquardt. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks.
We'll see you next Sunday. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. More calls right after this. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number. Tony from West Palm Beach. Hello, Tony.
Hey, Leo. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
All right. So I was asking about mapping a network drive to a Synology, but while I was on hold, and don't take it the wrong way, it was about an hour. I got impatient, and I was able to fix it myself.
By the way, that's why we put you on hold. We hope that you'll solve the problem in the long wait for me to answer your question.
Windows is wonky. I don't understand, because I had 3 PCs, and they're all networked. Two are wired, and they're Windows 10. But one of them, I have a NAS. Of course, I have a NAS because you do too. Anyway, and I also have
a Synology. I love my Synology.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I have a DG S511 or something like that. Anyway, so for some reason the public folder on the NAS disappeared from my Windows PC, the one I use all the time. And I used the Synology software to find it. I could see it, and when I went to map it, it was asking me for a network password. And I was like, what? Because I couldn't browse to the folder in the Windows hierarchy. I couldn't go to my computer, my PC, and then map a network drive. It wouldn't. You
had SMB turned on in your settings.
Yeah, I'm that down. SMB, what is that?
So, in order for a network drive share to work, you have to support the networking protocol. Windows uses something called SMB. It used to be called Samba, but Windows uses SMB. Apple uses AFP. These are file protocols or networking protocols, similar, kind of analogous to the drive protocols of NTFS and the hierarchical file system, HFS on Apple, but they're for network shares. So you need to turn on SMB for Windows to be able to browse and see it. And then I do think you will have to enter a password. Windows should remember the password, and that's just for additional security. You have a password in your Synology, and that's so that.
Well, that part worked. That one I had no problem with.
Yeah, normally. People don't put file shares out in public, but if somehow your system were misconfigured, something went wrong, there used to be an issue with NetBIOS, which was the file share, an older file sharing protocol being broadcast, and that was a real problem. So I think I would guess Synology errs on the side of caution and makes you log in using your Synology password.
No, that part is good, Leo. It was Windows was giving me trouble.
No, I'm saying while you're on Windows to add the share, to attach the share. You should only have to do that once. Windows should remember it.
Right.
And
it disappeared.
Yeah. So try it again. Make sure SMB's turned on. That's in the control panel.
Okay. It'll say SMB. Okay.
Yeah. Server message block. It stands for.
Okay.
And that actually comes from the old LAN manager days. That's a really old Windows technology. Windows. They don't like, Microsoft doesn't like to change things too fast,
Because I was Googling it, which can be dangerous, I guess, and I went to the Network Sharing Center Advanced Settings, and some people are saying under all networks, to turn off password protection.
I wouldn't do that.
I was like, I didn't do it. I was like, I'm going to call Leo.
Yeah, you can't, SMB is not routable, can't go out over the internet. Nevertheless, if somebody got into your network, you wouldn't want them to be able to access
I'm using, I know you don't use them anymore, I'm using 3 wired together Apple Airport Extremes throughout the house, so I have a whole property Wi-Fi.
Good.
Which is kind of cool.
Good.
And then,
if you're that cautious,
yes.
then you really ought to turn on, make sure passwords stay on.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. And you're right. What did you say? Windows is wonky? I think that's a
wonky. That's technical. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
same as saying kludgy.
Kludgy. It's a pretty accurate description, and sometimes file shares get forgotten. I'm not sure what happened. Sometimes the router could get in the way. It's tricky. But
Apple swears up and down their routers don't get in the way of anything, and it's been my 3-year experience that they do not.
Yeah.
But
now Apple no longer makes that. They're still keeping updates out, but they won't update them to the latest technologies.
I have one Apple beef, and I want to air this for the other people listening. So I've been in their cloud for a while now, and I have my contacts up there. I use a plug-in to sync with Outlook. I just upgraded to Outlook 2019. Well, over the past, I would say, week, I was searching for a contact with my iPad Pro, and I had duplications in there. And the only place it gets those from is from Apple's iCloud. So I went to the iCloud on the web interface, and a couple weird things happened. There were some untitled, contacts. And there were a bunch of duplicates, not all of them. I'd say like 30%. And so I went through all of that.
That's annoying.
I know. I hate duplicates. This goes back to Palm Trio days. I never want to go back there again. Because anyway, I got it all fixed up. But I just wanted to.
Yeah, it's syncing.
Apple. Really, Apple.
Syncing is hard because they always want to err on the side of duplicating versus deleting. So if two records look different, or they look the same, but maybe they're not the same, instead of deleting one, They'll do both of them just because they don't. So the reason this happens is you have multiple devices synchronizing, and maybe one looks slightly different. So maybe they're going to say,
No, they all all iCloud. I don't do anything else.
Yeah, I know, but you have multiple devices, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be syncing.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're getting one set of effects from iOS and one set of effects from the Mac, and Apple reasonably, any sync tool reasonably goes, well, I'm not going to delete one of these. Let's just put both of them in there, and you can figure it out. There is a delete duplicates capability in the Contacts Manager, but they really would prefer that you do that. So this is very common. All sync always gets duplicates. And then it gets worse if you tie it into Google, which you don't, but if you do, and I do that, now we have another source of truth, and this is a historically difficult thing to do. And Apple, as I think it should, decides, well, I'm not going to. The worst thing it could do would be, oh, let's just delete that. That looks the same. Apple constantly tries to merge me with my father. He has the same name. Different middle name, different phone numbers, different address. I even put senior in his name, hoping that Apple would figure it out. No. Every time I say merge duplicates or delete duplicates, it says, oh, finally, I can merge this other Leo Laporte in. And it's, no, that's my dad. Don't, please. I have to, So it's just something you have to live with. It's historically an issue with all synchronization tools. Going back, you're right, to Palm. The worst thing, though, if you think about it, the worst thing it could do would be delete something. That's not what you want. Dave in Paris, California. Hey, Dave, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for your show. And recently, I decided to jump into the deep end of the pool, took off my floatings, and built my first computer.
Wow. That's an old school thing to do.
Yeah, well...
is it fun? Are you having fun?
Actually, it was awesome. I took advantage of the Black Friday sales. I was using an older HP Elite with an i5 chip in it.
Nice.
And I just started listening to you guys, watching guys on YouTube. And I said, all right, I'm going to do it, and then, hope for the best. And getting all the parts together, I had it up and running with Windows 10 in 2 hours.
It's a good feeling. The only negative on building your own is if something goes wrong, then there's no tech support number to call. You have to call yourself. But that's part of the learning process, too. And I've done it, put a cable on wrong. I've done it many, many times. But that's how you learn. So good on you. And what are you using it for gaming? What are you using it for?
I'm using it for doing YouTube channels. I have two now. I started one.
What's your channel?
The first one was The Wombat Says, and I talked to you a while back.
I remember that.
And then the new one is I'm doing parodies. It's called I Am Hopfrog.
I Am Hopfrog.
Yeah, one of the videos is Dr. Phil beating up a guest.
Oh, great. Dave, it's a pleasure. Congratulations. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Yes, it's time to talk tech, computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smart cars, smartphones, smart watches, smart houses. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. I'm the only thing that's not smart in this whole equation. I'm just your average tech guy here, helping you out best I can. We got a great chat room that's part of the plan. The team tech guy in there at irc.twit.tv, they do a lot of answers. We also have a great website, techguylabs.com. That's free. You can get all your information there and leave comments. So if you have a suggestion, a better idea, you can go there as well. techguylabs.com. On we go with the calls at 8888 Ask Leo. Lisa in Long Beach. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, I've been listening to you since you came on KFI.
Oh, well, thank you. Way back in 2004.
Yeah, right.
That's back when we used abacuses.
I think I heard you on TV too. Some TV.
You might well have. I was a little bit on TV in those days too.
Okay, so now I've been listening. I was listening to you when you went on your cruises, and I thought I got a lot of advice. But we went on a 18-day cruise and
how fun.
Bought a cellular plan from AT&T that wasn't a plan. It was used up in 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny
And-
how little data they think we use.
Yeah, and then we bought the cruise ship plan so we could get online, but you weren't able to get online half the time.
Yeah, because it's they use marine satellites, and how many people were on the boat? A few thousand?
No, this was a 600 people.
Okay, yeah, that's the size I like, but that's still 600 people using on these satellites about 1.5 megabits of data. That's not much.
So we were on and off.
Yeah.
But when we got home, we had a $300 bill.
From AT&T or the cruise line?
From AT&T.
Yeah. Thanks, AT&T.
Yeah, I think it was more from the cruise line, actually.
Yeah.
So we're thinking of changing plans because kind of false advertisement.
Yeah. So.
And I just heard about T-Mobile Sprint.
The thing to understand is when you're at sea, I don't care who you have, there's no cell reception, right? You're in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
So the only time your cellular plan matters at all is when you're in port. You're going to have to either go without or use the cruise line's internet when you're in the ocean. Does that make sense?
Right.
The cell towers don't get out that far. They only go.
But they seem to be adding more on after those 2 days they told us we used up our.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So when you're in port, and if you don't turn off data roaming on your phone, this is really important.
We did.
Okay.
We had it off.
Then you shouldn't be using it except.
We were on airplane most of the time.
Good. So I don't know where. You better ask them. Well, let me see that bill because we were overseas and we were on airplane mode, and there should be no data used by AT&T at all.
And we were in Hawaii. We should have been able to use our American plan.
Yeah, that's not international. Here's a real catch, though. You got to be very careful about. This might have bit you. There's also something called cellular at sea. This is very misleading.
Yes.
You never want to use that ever under any circumstances. That's the
How
most.
do you turn it off?
Well, it shouldn't happen if you're in airplane mode at all.
I saw it popping up on my phone all the time.
Yeah, well, it's going to pop up, but you're not necessarily going to use it. I would check on your AT&T bill or call them and see how much of this was cellular at sea, because that's really expensive. And I wish cruise lines didn't do this because.
Well, it was AT&T that advertised that we could make cellular phone calls while we were on ship.
Yeah, that's cellular at sea, and it's very, very expensive.
Well, they said it was $100 each.
For a day, for a week, for a year?
For the time that we were at sea.
Well, okay, so maybe that's $200. Maybe the other $100 was, I don't know, slippage? I don't know. I don't.
On our bill, it will say what was cellular at sea?
Yeah, and if it doesn't, you can call and ask them, because technically that's also roaming. And if you turn off data roaming, which is you really want to, then
it was off the whole time.
Well, then you're being charged for phone calls. Did you make phone calls?
That's what we paid for.
Yeah.
Cellular phone calls or whatever the phone calls were.
So
what about Wi-Fi calling?
That shouldn't cost you anything more than the cost of the Wi-Fi.
Okay, so I went to a lecture on that on the ship and started using Wi-Fi calling.
Some carriers, I got to amend that because let me think about this. This really annoys me. Some carriers will charge you minutes for Wi-Fi calling, even though you're not running on their network. But it shouldn't cost you data at all. It should, if anything, they might charge it against the minutes. And since in most cases you have unlimited minutes, that should be effectively free. But that one, again, check your bill, the detail in your bill on that one.
Would it say Wi-Fi calling bill?
Yeah, well, it would show. It would. Yeah, it would. I think there'd be detail that would say this was on a Wi-Fi call. So, Wi-Fi calling. But do you pay for minutes? You get unlimited minutes, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think that's going to be. That should have been free as well. But if you placed a cellular at sea call, ooh, it could be a couple of bucks a minute. It could be really expensive.
Okay, well, it would pop.
I completely understand your confusion.
When I wasn't talking on it.
This is nuts.
I would see that.
Well, remember your phone, and that's why you have to turn off data roaming. Your phone will, if that's not turned off, use any data it can get to do things like check email, update apps.
Can it roam when it's on airplane?
No.
It was on airplane mode the whole time we were at sea.
Good. Then that's.
I mean, so that's why it was kind of confusing how we could get extra charges. And
I would call AT&T and say, I need you to spell this out. This does not smell right.
Yeah, and otherwise, I like AT&T for connectability and using it all.
So you'd have
my location.
The same rough issues with any carrier. T-Mobile's better on international when you're in port because they give you unlimited text and call and inexpensive calling, but free unlimited text, and they give you slow, not super fast, 2G data. I have to say, in some cases, it's 3G. I've found it sometimes even LTE data in most countries, not all. It didn't work in Amman, Jordan, for some reason, but it worked everywhere else when I was just in the Middle East. And that's nice because you have at least some data in port. So the cruise Wi-Fi is expensive and really slow. Cellular at sea is right out. Unless you're desperate, you should never use cellular at sea. Those phone calls are very expensive. Data's expensive. Always, when you travel internationally, unless you have an international plan, you should turn off data roaming because your phone, if it's not off, will use data constantly. Your iPhone or your Android phone is always checking email, looking for downloads, updating. It could download gigabytes in updates without you saying anything. So you got to turn off data roaming. Airplane mode's even better. It turns off all the radios. And when you're at sea, the only option is ship's Wi-Fi or cellular at sea. So, you know,
and then how does text messaging fill in? Because both other people I knew as well as me would get downloads of text messages when we were on airplane mode or Wi-Fi calling mode.
You shouldn't. If Wi-Fi, well, see, remember, airplane mode, you can still have Wi-Fi on.
Does that give you your text message?
It will, but you'll be paying for it. Yes. Depends on the phone. So text message, this is also confusing. In the old days, text messages meant SMS, and that was carrier messaging. That did not use data. That would require a phone signal. But nowadays, almost everybody's doing it via data. Apple. Do you use iPhones?
My husband does. I don't.
Yeah, so Apple's messages uses data. And WhatsApp uses data. Most messaging apps use data. So that would be getting it through the Wi-Fi or the cellular data signal. And if you can be in airplane mode. Airplane mode technically only means turn off the cellular radios. You can still have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on while you're in airplane mode. So make sure when you say airplane mode, you turn off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi if you don't want to use those services. It's very confusing. I don't blame you. The good news is it was only $300. When the iPhone first came out, people were getting $10,000 bills internationally.
I remember you warning us.
Yeah, because this wasn't well known. And they go, what the heck? So somebody's saying in the chat room, Burke, you get SMS with data and Wi-Fi turned off. Well, I don't know how. That's magic. Then you're getting magic text messages because that's not possible. You need to have some sort of data to get... well, I guess you would get SMS messages from the phone service.
There were some confusing things happening on the boat. We had this expert on the iPhone who was giving us lectures, and he was saying, today we all got text messages.
Yeah, there's some data connection for that to happen. And on an iPhone, that just could be the Wi-Fi, the ship's Wi-Fi.
Okay, so the ship's Wi-Fi could do that.
Yep.
And one other miscellaneous question. All of a sudden on my computer, I'm getting Microsoft Teams loading.
Oh, I hate that.
How do you unload it? It takes a long time to turn on my computer because it's loading.
You know, the worst thing, this is a little gift from Microsoft. The worst thing is, even if you uninstall Teams, it reinstalls it.
Okay.
You can turn that off.
So I turned off the OneDrive because I don't need the OneDrive.
Good. And did that fix it?
Well, no, that just helped with one part of the loading, but all of a sudden it's
Microsoft Teams is their team messaging plan, right?
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm not a team.
No, I'm not a team either. I use Slack. I don't want Microsoft Teams. So, and even if you uninstall it, it will reinstall it if you have Office installed. So you have to go through extra. I don't remember what the steps were, but I think it's going into the Office installer. You have to tell it, please stop with the Teams thing. I don't use it. I don't want it. This is Microsoft kind of foisting this on you, and it's very annoying.
Okay, and then how do you speed up your computer? How do you know what's loading in the background? How do you look that up?
That would take a little more time to explain. You have a task manager on Windows?
Yeah.
Of course you are. You have Microsoft Teams. You hit Control-Alt-Delete, and that used to reset the computer. Now it gives you a menu. One of the things on there is a task manager. That will show you everything that's running in the background.
Okay.
But those names will be obscure because very often the background processes don't have the same name as the application. They're often obscure. Many of them will be Windows processes with oddball names. So it's not always useful to find that out. But if you really want to know, Control-Alt-Delete. Launch the task
it's only
manager.
showing 4 things on my Control-Alt-Delete.
Yeah, one of them is Task Manager. Click that. And then you'll see
I'm in Task Manager.
And you only see 4 things?
Yeah. I'm wondering why my pages take so long to load.
There's something wrong with your computer. It should be hundreds of things. Make sure you're on so there's different tabs. Look at the CPU tab.
Okay, so I just opened it all the way up.
Yeah, there should be more than 4 things.
It says I only have 5 apps. There's also all the background processes.
Yes.
Can I turn any of these off?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
If you know what they are, if one of them is Microsoft Teams, for instance, yes. But you got to know what they are. And as I said, the names are highly obscure.
Okay.
This is one of those areas, physicians always say, don't get these full body scans. You don't want to know all this. This is like a full body scan for Windows. You don't want to know. I get calls from people all the time. My CPU is at 100%. Don't worry about it. It's supposed to be. It's fine. Just ignore it. Sometimes you can know too much.
What about if your CPU is at 50%?
Fine.
That's okay.
Let the computer be, let go and let the computer do what it's doing. It's okay.
Okay.
You can get, in other words, you can get over involved and put your fingers in the gears of the computer. And honestly, modern computers, you're better off not knowing. You don't want to know how the sausage is made. Just eat the sausage. It's tasty.
And leave everything else to
leave it. Yeah. I mean, I'm tempted, of course, and I sometimes do this, but I almost always regret it. You gotta really know what you're doing. Don't worry about it. Okay?
Okay. Okay,
if you think, let me put it this way. If you think AT&T's billing is unclear, wait till you do Task Manager.
Oh, okay.
Don't add more complexity to your life.
Definitely.
Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad you had a nice cruise, though, right? You went to Hawaii? How fun.
I went to Hawaii and Tahiti.
Oh, my God. That sounds wonderful.
I highly recommend it, yeah.
I'm jealous.
So, well, you've been halfway.
I'm sure your bar bill was more than $300, right?
No, it was open bar.
Oh, nice.
Azamara.
Which cruise line? Oh, Azamara is supposed to be very nice, yeah.
Yeah, it was a real treat. It was an anniversary treat.
Oh, so congratulations. You deserve it. That's great.
So, thank you for all your wisdom.
Well, I was only half wise. I'm like your CPU. I'm only half wise today. 50%.
Yeah, okay. If you say so.
Thanks, Lisa.
I'll count on you. I'll keep on listening anyway. Okay.
Take care. Just please don't restart me. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More of your calls coming up right after this. It's so funny. They never took down the chain link fence in our basement. This was... We actually, Pixel Corp put that up. We shared their basement with the Pixel Corp, and they slowly took over more and more of the basement. This is where Burke's office used to be. But you weren't inside the chain link fence. You were outside it. That's so funny. Secure storage. Yeah, behind our chain link fence. Well, that's new. What is that? Oh, there's the brick. Okay, so that's our bricks, and they put some other bricks in sideways. Yeah, it looks like. But these are not the named bricks. These are the unnamed bricks. We had a set designer who said, yeah, we'll put bricks up there. And he said, but he was going to get these special Hollywood bricks that were plastic, and then bring in a special painter to paint them to make them look like bricks. And I said, well, what if we got real bricks? Oh, yeah, you could do that for a fraction of the cost. And you didn't have to paint them. Oh, here's the gallery. Let's look at the gallery. Oh, it's a gallery of clipboards. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, so that's our old conference room. Better table. They got better furniture. That's Lisa's office back there. I wonder where my office is. Oh, this is the kitchen. Oh, they took out the red and white tile. Aw, I like the red and white tile. Lisa's office, right? Yeah, I think that's Lisa's office. This is, I think, my office. No, whose office is that? I don't know whose office that is because there's a window here. Oh, no, this is the old triangulation. This is the old living room set. Yeah, that's Lisa's office. That's the engineering office. This is the old triangulation set. Apparently they're having a 12-step meeting there. This is in the back. That's the old, I think. I don't know where that is. See, the floor is the same. You know what, we were told we can't refinish the floor. It's soft pine. It's so old. If you refinish it, there'll be big holes in it. It looks like they refinished that. And they did, this is new floor because that was old red and white tile. So yeah, that's my office is not in there. I don't know where my office is. Yes. Oh, if you insist. You highly insist. So there's, that was Tom Merritt's office. That's Lisa's office. My office is over here, but they never show it. I don't know why. Maybe they keep bears in there. I don't know what they're doing with it. It's nice. They did a nice job. Line 2, Tim, Riverside. Hi, Tim. Thanks for hanging on.
Hey, Leo. How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
All right. You know, I'm really in the market for an EcoTank printer, but I need to use a flash drive, and I can't find a model number for an EcoTank printer that uses a flash drive.
You mean you put like it has a flash drive slot to read content and then print it?
Right.
I'm trying to remember if I have one on my EcoTank. I may well and just never used it. That I don't know.
Bought for a card, but they don't have it for a flash drive.
I see. So you put an SD card in there, but there's no USB port.
Right.
So this is and how do you do that? It just prints whatever's on the flash drive?
Right.
Huh. And why would you do that? You don't have to connect a computer, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my HP printer has a USB port to stick a flash drive.
Nowadays with wireless printers, Wi-Fi printers, most people just say, well, why copy it to a USB drive? I'll just print it from my computer. I can't say they don't. I don't know if they do or don't. I'll have to go home and look at mine. You would think, though, that would be in the spec sheet. Maybe they don't because it's a specialized thing. If anybody knows, 8888 Ask Leo, or you can mention it in the chat room. Sorry, can't be much help there. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More of your calls right after this. And thanks to Irvine Robb in our chat room, he has an Epson EcoTank 7750. He says it has a USB port for cameras for drives. It's the EcoTank ET7750 Type A USB port. You could put a thumb drive in there and it could read it. That makes sense now when you mention cameras. That's why you'd have an SD card slot. You just put the camera slot in there, print all your pictures. But his has a USB port, and it's a host port. That means it's designed to host a USB thumb drive. So that's great. Type A. Very nice. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. Let's go to Maine and say hi to Micah. Hi, Micah.
Hey, Hey, Leo. Good to talk to you as always. I was calling about two things. One thing really quick, and then the other thing a little bit about going over the top with TV, et cetera. But the quick thing is you were talking about smartphone cases a while ago. We're talking about those cheap cases, which are just great and wonderful. But if you have an iPhone, the best case available is this smart battery case because it not only protects your phone.
Oh, good point.
It protects your battery and extends your battery.
I didn't think of that. If that is what, and now he wanted a thin and light case. Those are far from thin and light. They have in fact, the Apple ones are ridiculous. They have a little hump like a cobra that ate a mouse where the battery sits. But that's a good reason to have a case for the extra battery, the extra juice.
And with the smart battery case, it extends the battery because it uses the smart battery case first before it goes into your iPhone battery. I'm using my 6S. It's 4 years old, and battery's working just great.
That's a great point. Yeah, and you just wear out the battery in the case, but no big deal. It's easy to get a new case.
Exactly. But in terms of going over the top, I just wanted to mention that there was a time last year I was with DirecTV Now, and I was saving a bunch of money with them. But, they've raised the fees on the over-the-top TV services now, too, where I was just trying to negotiate with my cable company. I left them because, one of the deals with the evil cable companies is that if you leave them for 31 days, they treat you like a new customer. You come back, and all of a sudden they welcome you, and you get all the great deals and everything.
That's a good thing. That's a good. You want to be a new customer because new customers get better treatment.
Exactly.
How funny.
But these days, with YouTube has raised their prices, and everybody has raised their prices on the over-the-top stuff. It's about the same to go over the top as it is to get whatever you can get from the cable company.
Kind of my point. And you know what? This is not by accident. Cable companies knew that people were going to be interested in this to save money. The cable companies want you to buy, obviously, as much as you can from them. That's how they amortize the cost of digging the trench, putting the cable in your neighborhood. Of course, they did that 20 years ago. They've more than amortized it, but they still, they want to maximize it. The best way to maximize it is sell you a triple play: data, TV, and telephone. That's why they push that all the time. If you're one of those people that comes to them and says, I only want the data, they don't like that. But they've also know this is going to happen because of cord cutters and because of, you use the term over the top, Micah. That means internet television. And YouTube TV gives you all your local channels. It's really like a little cable company, isn't it? But it turns out the cable companies knew this was coming, so they slowly, incrementally, without making a big deal, raised the price of data. So most of us are paying about $60 a month for our data. They also, many of them, put bandwidth caps on there that at the time you might have said, oh, I'll never use a terabyte a month. But if you start watching every hour of HD, Netflix is a gigabyte of data. If you start watching TV 4 hours a night, it's pretty easy to get to a terabyte. And so they knew that this would impede the encroachment of over-the-top services. And then the over-the-top services themselves are kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because they still have to pay the local channels and ESPN and CNN and everybody for their content. So it ends up, it's about the same, exactly as you point out. You might save a little money. You might get a good feeling of sticking it to the man. But if you still have to go to the cable company for your data, in most cases that's the case, you really aren't saving anything.
And the other thing is, too, that many of your older listeners may not realize, I'm still a channel surfer. I go and I see what's on. I don't necessarily pick what I want.
Micah, you're an old timer. Nobody does that anymore. Yeah.
But, some people do, and you can't do that when you're going over the top. Yeah, you can kind of surf around a little bit, but it's not quite the same. It's a lot slower. So you're getting a lot more things, and it may be about the same or a little bit more. I hate the cable companies. I can't stand them. And in fact, I was doing seminars last year around my town on how to leave this cable.
Nice.
And save money. But you can't do that anymore because it's really not saving anything.
Do you use YouTube TV? Is that what you said?
I did used to use DirecTV Now. I went back to the cable.
By the way, the worst of the over-the-top cable services is AT&T's. YouTube TV has a guide grid, much like your cable companies. And one thing they do that I really like, they have live thumbnails. So you can kind of channel surf with YouTube TV because you can see, without switching to a channel, what's going on the channel. And I really like that. I think that's actually better than the cable interface. So it is possible to, if you're a channel surfer, I think that people's habits have dramatically changed, though, don't you? We honestly, what we really want is to watch our shows. We want to know what the best shows are, and we want to watch them. And really, we've become focused on, well, I watch 4 shows a week or whatever, and that's what I want to watch. I don't want to. I'm surprised you still do this. Go through the dial with your clicker, looking for different stuff.
Because, you don't always know what it is you want to watch. And that's the whole thing. I found movies that I didn't know existed that I never would have found if I didn't surf through the channel.
Yeah, most of my movie education came in my youth from trying to find something at 10 o'clock at night. It's a late show. So, yeah, that's a good point.
I find it really handy. And frankly, I was able to negotiate a decent deal with my cable company for the next year and locked it out so that they can't raise fees on me in the way that I recorded the conversation. And next year when it happens, I'll leave them for 31 days if I have to and go to YouTube TV because there's no contract when you do that. And it's a good way to get around that and become a new customer, although you still have to give them your $65 a month for your internet.
They're still going to get you. Okay. Yeah.
One way or another.
I am
it's
still
an unregulated monopoly. And
it is, and that's the real problem. It is a monopoly. And it actually was a monopoly because they convinced the FCC to give them that monopoly many years ago. And, now I know why you're leading those seminars, because no matter where you are, in Maine or California, each city has one and only one cable company. That's how it works. And they get that license from the local city council, the local government, and that can be changed. Usually there's a term to that contract, but that can be changed. And often that's the opportunity to get more out of that cable company and to kind of make them more responsible as local members, community members.
And the other nasty thing that happened is, the FCC eventually required all the phone companies to allow anyone that wanted to use their copper lines, use their copper lines. But the FCC said, oh, no, your fiber lines? No, they're yours. You own them. Yep. Nobody else can use them. And that's what fouled things up.
The theory was, and this was a theory being promoted by the telcos, but the theory was we're spending a lot of money, whether it's a cable company to dig trenches or a fiber company to put them in the poles or in the trenches. We're spending a lot of money. We need to make that money back. We need to have a local monopoly to pay for the infrastructure we're going to have to put in. Fine, but there should be a term on that. And those monopolies, after 10 years, 20 years, whatever it's going to take to pay back the investment, those monopolies should be dissolved and competition should reign. That's the only reason we have such bad internet in the United States. The place the internet was invented, and we have among the worst internet in the developed world. We need better internet, and we're only going to get that through real competition. So there should have been a term on that monopoly. It's ridiculous. Cable companies got their money back long ago.
Yeah, if they require the phone companies, which are all going out of business now, to share the copper line, the fiber line is no different. It should have been shared just like the copper line.
Couldn't agree more, Micah. Thanks. Appreciate the call. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, thank you for letting me do this show. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Lady Laura, our musical director. She makes it so much fun with all those great hits she spins. Thanks, of course, to Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. She picks up the calls. But really, the deepest thanks go to you for listening and calling. I really appreciate that. Otherwise, I'd have to get a real job. So thank you. Thank you. 8888 Ask Leo. Last segment of the show for this week. Frank from Trenton, New Jersey. Hello, Frank.
Hey, Leo. This is Frank. You know me. Just wanted to say, of course, I love your show. I've been watching you on TV, on Tech TV for quite some time during the screensavers and Call for Help.
The good old days.
Yeah, I know. And then, of course, your buddy Adam Sessler, of course, and Morgan Webb on X-Play thereafter. So,
whatever happened to them?
Well, I heard Adam Sessler's now doing an entrepreneur business right now, according to his Wikipedia article.
That guy was an Energizer bunny. He had so much energy, and I love him, and I'm glad to hear he's doing well. And I know Morgan, of course, married well, Rob Reed, who was a good friend and a novelist, and she's done a variety of things. She had, for a while, a podcast, and so, yeah.
Yeah, she's working for Blizzard now, so.
Blizzard, good for her. All right. Yeah, she's always been a serious gamer, obviously.
Yeah, so anyway, 2 points. Before I get to my Linux question, I just want to say I know everybody in Los Angeles right now are grieving the loss of a great NBA legend, of course, Kobe Bryant. Have you heard the news yet? So
Yeah, tragic. 41 years old, died in a helicopter accident.
Yeah, I know. The folks
sad.
in Los Angeles should know this because, of course, we're on the nation here, of course, on this great radio show and also on your podcast as well. So
Thank you. Yeah.
So my thoughts and prayers to the families of
Absolutely.
the Bryant family.
Yep.
So, and the second, of course, go to my Linux question. Of course, I know you haven't gone to talk about Linux in quite a while because of all the the obscureness of all the software involved in it, like software packages and everything. But I've been a Ubuntu user for quite some time, of course, mostly Debian, but mostly Ubuntu at the same time because. Of course, I'm recommending Ubuntu's LTS versions, of course, rather than, of course, their regular point release versions, of course, because they're not that good of a grade, sort of, so to speak. In that.
I'm a big fan, as you know, of Linux, a free operating system. It's open source. It can be modified. There's no commercial entity putting it out, although Ubuntu is a commercial entity, but it's based on a community distribution of Linux called Debian, as you mentioned. I actually mostly now use Pop! OS, which is based on Ubuntu, which is based on Debian. Pop! OS is from a company called System 76 that makes Linux laptops, and I think they decided if we're going to sell laptops with Linux on them instead of Windows, we better make sure that the operating system works smoothly and flawlessly. And I found it works not only with System 76's hardware, but any hardware I buy. I'm about to buy, Dell also makes Linux laptops, and I'm about to buy, it's going to come out, I think, February 7th, so a couple of weeks, the new Dell Developer XPS 13 Developer Edition. That comes with Ubuntu LTS on it as well. And I think those are spectacular systems, and I think they'll be really good running Linux. People should look at Linux. If you use Windows, it's very similar, but it's free. It's open source. And if you're a Windows 7 user saying, "What am I going to do? Windows 7 is, not going to get any more security patches," Linux might be a good choice for that old computer.
Yeah, and one other note, of course, have you ever heard of the Trinity desktop environment yet?
Say again?
The Trinity desktop environment. It's basically.
I have not. Trinity desktop environment. No, I use GNOME. Trinity. Tell me about that.
Well, Trinity desktop is a fork of continuation of KDE 3.5X.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people don't like changes, so every time there's an update to a desktop environment, well, Linux is unique. Microsoft Windows has a Microsoft desktop environment, and there's no other you can use. Macintosh, same thing. But with Linux, you can plug and play different, desktops. That means a completely different user interface. It's the same underlying operating system, but it gives you a chance to really customize. Trinity, huh? I'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, their website is trinitydesktop.org. That's trinitydesktop.org if you want to check it out. Of course, they also have, of course, the live DVDs of the Ubuntu desktop in the OS with the Trinity pre-installed.
I will check it out. Thank you.
Yeah. I recommend it, of course, and it's for those people who missed the old KDE 3.5X series.
That's one of the cool things, but also one of the weird things about Linux is that people, nobody likes change, right? So when, for instance, Microsoft went from Windows 7 to 8, everybody said, "Oh, we hate this new Windows 8." In the Linux world, they just say, "Well, I'll tell you what, let's put Windows 7's interface on, and then you'll be happy." And that's what happens. They say, "Well, we don't like the new KDE." Well, fine, we'll make the old KDE. We'll keep that going. That's what open source lets you do. You've got the source code. You can make it your own, modify it, distribute it. I think that's one of the great benefits. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate the call. Steve in Jackson, California. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, good. I enjoy all the information you guys always provide and all your different programs that you have there.
Thank you.
I've just got one question. I've upgraded an older Toshiba satellite L775 to Windows 10, and I didn't think to back up or save my favorites, and now I can't. It doesn't appear that they got updated with the upgrade.
Your browser bookmarks? When you say favorites, you mean your browser bookmarks?
Yeah, Windows 7.
Yeah,
favorites.
In Internet Explorer, or what were you using?
Oh, yeah, it was Internet Explorer.
Okay. Those should come over. unless you wiped the drive. You didn't wipe the drive. You just did an upgrade in place, Windows 10 on top of 7, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know why those wouldn't come over, except that Windows 10 first of all, make sure you're using Internet Explorer. It comes with Internet Explorer, but it's not the default browser anymore. Edge is. So maybe you're just looking.
That's probably what I'm not doing.
Yeah, so it doesn't have an icon for an Internet Explorer, but if you hit the Windows key and type Internet Explorer, it will launch, and I bet your favorites are still there. And then I would suggest moving. At that point, you can export them and import them back into Edge. Edge should have said, "Oh, let me import your old settings and your old favorites from Internet Explorer." But if it didn't, you can do that manually. Yeah, I think that's probably I'm glad you brought that up, because there are lots of people doing what you did, and I do recommend it. Windows 7 is no longer. It's reached the end of life, which means it no longer is getting supported. You can't make support phone calls, but more importantly, you won't get security fixes. Every Patch Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month, we get fixes. That last Patch Tuesday, January 14th, was the last one for Windows 7. No more fixes. That means potentially you're vulnerable. You shouldn't use Windows 7 on the internet. So you're kind of faced with a number of choices. You can, I guess, use it. Take your chances. Don't recommend that. You could upgrade to Windows 10. You don't have to buy that upgrade. I suspect Steve did not have to either. If you have a Windows 7 installation, download Windows 10 from Microsoft. Make sure you get it from Microsoft. It should install over it and even activate at no cost. Microsoft's not saying this is possible, but it seems to be the case, and that's great. So then you go to Windows 10. But there will be some changes, and that is one of the changes. There are a number of them. Windows Media Center, gone. There are a few things that you will lose. Internet Explorer, no longer the default browser. You can switch it back to Internet Explorer if you really like it. But I think you probably should use Edge, which is the new browser. Just import your favorites into Edge. I'm surprised it didn't do that automatically. Thank you, everybody. The time has come to say goodbye. I appreciate your joining us today. I hope I'll see you next week. Lots more tech to talk about. I'm Leo Laporte, your tech guy on the radio. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. And have a great Geek Week. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.